దైవ్ పార్ట్ సిక్స్త్ పార్ట్ సిక్స్త్ గాడ్మ్యాన్ గాడ్మ్యాన్ ఆథర్ బై దయానిధి சுவாமி சரவணானந்தா. தயவு அருட்பெருஞ்சோதி அருட்பெருஞ்சோதி தனிப்பெரும் கருணை அருட்பெரும் ஜோதி. Chapter Life of Continuous Dream. Life of Continuous Dream. Every man has got many experience of dreams, but the duration of those dreams is very short, say a few minutes only. But even in that short period, one feels to have dreamt for a long time. When a person is dreaming, he is almost not aware of it, but he takes it all a true happenings. Only after he comes to the waking state, he actually discovers the truth that he was still then dreaming. What all he saw and felt in the dream were not true, but were only visionary. A man of divine wisdom learns some spiritual lessons by each and every dream. A man of divine wisdom learns some spiritual lessons by each and every dream. In fact, our Lord is sending to us every person and thing and incident to give us some divine experience of His grace. These lessons of dreams may be of useful guidance to an aspiring soul. Others fail to take proper lessons from the dreams. Here is an incident of a good dream for a virtuous man. He was born in a decent family with all the required comforts. He was well educated and had got good philosophical knowledge. Though he was young, but his mind and thoughts were pure. Because he was a landlord, he had to manage his lands with the help of 3 or 4 farmers along with their families. They were all satisfied with their works because they were provided with all their needs. This landowner was a married man and had 3 children. With all these environments, he was leading a life very calmly and happily. On a certain fine night, he was sleeping on his cot in the bedroom. He was alone. Everything around him was beautifully decorated and kept clean. After a sound sleep of few hours, his inner mind had been awakened by some divine influence. He was in the midst of some unknown persons who were all kind towards him. To them, he was giving out some rare ideas to make their life more pleasant through the grace of God. Next minute, There was a cry of a young boy who was stung by a scorpion. The boy was brought to the man who mercifully looked at him and smoothly touched him. In a few seconds, the boy was completely relieved of the pains. Then, to the surrounding people, this man explained that he was not a magician but was only a person of mercy and pity, which alone had done this uncommon deed. Therefore, it was the work of divine grace. Now he was found himself in a jungle among some wild people. They were all on a hunting expedition, but when they sighted him in a few moments, they got some inner urge to worship him as the deity. To them, he advised to lead a merciful life. At once, they accepted and promised to do so. They all requested him to live with them for some days in order to instruct them some good ways to make their life happy and peaceful. So he was residing there for a long period. He did not know how he had been now in the divine presence of a temple of wisdom. He was concentrated on the praying for the grace of Lord. Within a few moments, the door of the temple opened of its own accord, and a melodious divine song sung into his ears. It was mysterious because its source could not be ascertained. His mind was now concentrated on the black curtain before him. The screen was also mystically removed in a few seconds. In the following few seconds, a number of six curtains was blue, green, red, yellow, white, and an admixture of all the above six colors once appeared and once appeared and disappeared. Now there was no screen between him and the divine in the sanctum sanctorium. In the next moment, he forgot himself. In the next moment, he forgot himself and all the surroundings. When he regained his consciousness, there was burning the divine light before him, and at the same time, he was feeling that he himself had become such a light itself from the center of his physical head. He was shining as a steady light. He was shining as a steady light, and its rays were felt to be extending on all sides to fill the limitless, expansive space of the universe. This inner experience stayed in him perpetually even after he woke up. Now he was living in his actual life with all his former surroundings. But the only important thing was the state of his being was completely changed. But the one important thing was the state of his being. The state of his being was completely changed. His material bodily health was felt wholly transformed into spiritual light of God's grace from the very inner source. From the very inner source, he was shining forever. His rays of grace were extending away both in and out of him. His rays of grace were extending away both in and out of him. He lost his sense of material bodily extin- existence, and he was ever shining. He felt no day or night. That time and the space made no difference in him. He felt no day or night. That time and space made no difference in him. He was experiencing his existence and transcended all the barriers. Hence, he has become an eternal being in oneness of God. This is important one. Hence, he has become an eternal being in oneness of God. This divine man was living for some time in the midst of his people, but he was never showing out his self and the highest power of grace. He was serving all approaching him. His words were to enlighten the life of everyone. His words were to enlighten the life of everyone. His blessings were duly endowed on all his near and dear. On the eve of his disappearance, he advised all his surroundings to follow the path of true love, extending from the innermost. His last talk to them was that they should not lose their hold of divine light of grace. They should not lose their hold of the divine light of grace, that he was going to regenerate all souls from within, that he could not be seen by the public for some times, but he would reappear with the divine personality of grace, and therefore everyone, without caring for his external disappearance, must be living the loving life. The divine was now in full bloom. His sons were well taught and trained to follow his ideals. When he entered his prayer room on a certain full moon night, he told his sons that he could not return for some time, so he could not be seen there by them. They were also in such spiritual development as to take his words as divine command. Other people also were not even a little disturbed by his vanishing. Then the days were going on, making the spirit of his divine injection broader and broader. Now the people of this world are gradually coming to understand all the truth of the man. Now the people of this world are gradually coming to understand all the truth of the man and his God. The above mentioned story is to enlighten the truth of humanity developing in this world. In the dreams of people, many things are seen and experienced, but all are discovered untrue. But all are discovered untrue when a man is awakened. In truth, he is calmly lying in his bed during all the time of his dream life. In that dream world, all the mental creation of the experience only, and in it he has also assumed a different form other than the physical one. But all is personal being, but all is personal being, and the dream stuff are never doubted to be unnatural. Even if it is doubted to a certain degree, only when the person comes to the full waking stage, he will see the truth face to face. He will see the truth face to face. What all have experienced in the dreamland are not true. What all have experienced in the dreamland are not true. And he is all the time in his natural life. Only in a few moments time. The unnatural experiences of dream life. Only in a few moments time. The unnatural experiences of dream life had come and gone. From all these, we can come to the soul knowledge and the divine love and the divine life of our true self. True self. God Almighty is the only supreme being. God Almighty is the only supreme being who has assumed all and all of the whole universe. The mystic object of this endless active universe is not easily understood by the humanity. The mystic object of this endless active universe is not easily understood by the humanity. God, by his attribute of omnipotent, omnipresence, and omnigrace, has become everything, every person, and every action in the universe. This is very, very important. Let us to listen this again. God, by his attribute of omnipotent, omnipresence, and omnigrace, எல்லாம் வல்லான், எல்லாம் உடையான், எல்லாம் ஆனான் ஆகிய மூன்று இயல்புகள் has become everything, has become everything, every person and every action in the universe. So it can be accepted that each one of us is, each one of us is, but is true self. So it can be accepted that each one of us is, but is true self in the essence. He is the soul, the spirit, the life, the mind, the intellect, and the body of every one of us. This is very, very important point. He is, that is, God Himself. He is the soul, He is the spirit, the life, the mind, the intellect, and the body of every one of us. கடவுளே நமது ஆன்மாவாகவும் ஜீவன் ஆகவும் வாழ்வு ஆகவும் மனம் ஆகவும் உணர்வு அல்லது அறிவு ஆகவும் நமது உடல் ஆகவும் விளங்குகின்றார். Therefore, in truth, we are individually, but Himself alone. Therefore, in truth, we are individually, but Himself alone. This is the highest and most truthful nature of us. Therefore, in truth, we are individually, but Himself alone. This is the highest and most truthful nature of us. But this divine nature of man is not coming to light until the soul knowledge is awakened in the human life. While he was not aware of his real self, he was living a physical, sensuous life for a long time. He was thinking that he was a physical being to which birth and death were natural. And this is earthly life is the only true life. Please listen again. He was, that is, we are. We are thinking that he was thinking that he was a physical being, பௌதிக உடல் கொண்ட மனிதன், உடல் நான் என்கின்ற எண்ணமுடையவன். To which birth and death were natural. And this earthly life is the only true life. Some men of wisdom, by their highest reasoning faculty, discovered the soul of divine spirit in themselves, and that was thought to be the real self. At the same time, their bodily being was taken to be unreal. By renouncing the unreal and holding the real only, by renouncing the unreal and holding the real only, they thought to live a true life on this world. But this life did not stand after the separation of the physical frame of the man. But this life did not stand after the separation of the physical frame of the man. உடல் நீங்கிய பிறகு இந்த ஆன்ம வாழ்வு அனுபவம் நிலைக்காது. At this point, the wise man was convincing himself that he would be living forever in the soul life only after living out the physique. In fact, there is no life. There is no life to that bodiless soul alone. Bodiless soul alone, because it cannot experience anything divine without this qualified human body. இந்த பகுத்தறிவுடைய மனித உடல் இல்லையானால் ஆன்மனுபவ வாழ்வு நிலைக்காது, சூன்யமாகிவிடும். Therefore, man of soul can possess all divine experience only so long as he is living in this body life. If the body goes, then it must come again to live upon this earth. The wise man has awakened on the soul plan, so he sees all the material worldly life is but a dream set up by some divine law. As a soul being, he is ever pristine and unaffected by the worldly tarnished life. He sees this eternal life as a false, illusionary dreaming once. So he bestows no attachment towards his life. Hence, renouncing this life, he goes to be immersed in the soul bliss discovered within himself. Thus, his outward life is taken to be a dream, and it breaks in when he is awakened in the land of soul. Now, the final stage of man comes to keep him on the throne of God. Yes, he is understanding now that he is neither a physical being nor a mere soul being alone. Yes, he is understanding now that he is neither a physical being nor a mere soul being alone. இப்பொழுது தெளிவடைவது, சன்மார்க்கத்தின் மூலம் தெளிவடைவது என்ன என்றால், மனிதன் என்பவன் இந்த பௌதிக உடல் மாத்திரன் அல்லன். அதே நேரத்தில் நித்திய ஆன்மா மட்டும்தான் தான் அல்லன். He is nothing but God. He is nothing but God, who himself has become this little soul atom and is ruling all over the complete universe. When this God-man looks into the universe, he knows that one divine self, one divine self, out of its omnipresent propensity, is expressing out from the innermost of all. One divine self, out of its omnipresent propensity, is expressing out from the innermost of all. A sensuous man sees only a multifarious universe, while a God man perceives the one supreme being expressing out into this wondrous universe. Therefore, God alone is existing, eternal, and becoming all. Therefore, God alone is existing, eternal, and becoming all and all. Since the man is but an expression of that supreme God, he too exists eternally in oneness of him. But this divine truth is not revealed until one comes to the realization of the omni grace of God blossoming into his knowledge of grace divine. Though the God-man is eternal, he is just now awakened on his gracious plan. This higher divine knowledge has borne fruit after a very long time of universal creation. Though the man was created millions of years ago, he was to develop internally for such a long time for bearing the fruit of divine grace. The divine men of today has awakened up to see that the long period of life from the beginning of the first man to the man of yesterday is a very lengthy and continuous dream. The real man was till now in the dreaming life with many different bodily beings. Only when the man recognizes his divinely nature of eternity, he is in the awakened state. His long, lifeless sleep has just broken in, and therefore all the sensuous lives are truly acknowledged as a continuous dreaming life. When he really wakes up from the longest slumber, he truly realized that he and the Godhead, he truly realized that he and the Godhead are never separated. He and the Godhead are never separated and cannot be separated. He is eternally in oneness of God. It was the lower sensuous knowledge or ignorance which had kept the man separated from the divine head. From this moment, the man has got upon the divine plan of grace, and so he is to live the stainless life of divine grace on the face of the earth. Dave. அருட்பெரும் ஜோதி அருட்பெரும் ஜோதி தனிப்பெரும் கருணை அருட்பெரும் ஜோதி அகமிருந்து வருக அருளுடன் அனகமாக வாழ்க தயவுடன். அகமிருந்து வருக அருளுடன் அனகமாக வாழ்க தயவுடன். உள்ளிருந்து வாழ்வதுவே உண்மை வாழ்வாகும். மற்ற புறமிருந்து புரிவதெல்லாம் பொய்ப்பிழைப்பே ஆகும். நித்திய நிலையான ஆன்ம அகம் பற்றினில் சத்திய பதியான அருட்ஜோதியோடு உரு சுத்த தயவு செயலாக எதையுமே செய். அனகன் சுவாமி சரவணானந்தா. தயவு.